Okay, so get this. We've got a global soccer superstar facing some really serious accusations. And on top of that, a massive financial dispute is going on. It's honestly enough to make your head spin just trying to keep up with it all. But here's the thing. This deep dive isn't about the gossip. It's about so much more than that. We're really trying to dig into how information spreads and how people react to these sorts of things and how to think critically about what we read online, especially with such high stakes. So we are diving right into the rapidly unfolding controversy around Kylian Mbappe. And trust me, this is a wild one. We've got recent articles from Swedish and French publications, and both give us a different angle on this whole thing. So basically, the situation is this. Mbappe, who, let's be honest, is probably the biggest name in soccer right now, is facing some incredibly serious accusations. Yeah. And get this, it all comes out right as he's in a massive legal battle with his former team, Paris Saint-Germain, or as everyone calls them, PSG. The timing is, well, let's just say it's interesting. Let's start with what we know from the Swedish media. They're reporting an open investigation into potential rape and sexual assault. And this all goes back to a visit Mbappe made to Stockholm. But, and this is crucial, according to these reports, the investigation is in its very early stages. The term they use is reasonably suspect. And I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea what that actually meant legally. Turns out it's the lowest, like the absolute lowest level of suspicion in the Swedish legal system.
That's right, yeah. It's definitely different from, well, say, the American system, where being named a suspect carries, much heavier implications. But in this case, all it means is that Swedish authorities have opened an investigation to determine if there's even enough evidence to consider pursuing charges.
So they're not even close to a presumption of guilt at this point. It's more like they're just looking into it, which is a big distinction. So we have these reports, and they're serious, but we're missing a lot of details. And Mbappe's response, he comes out swinging immediately. He goes on social media, calling the reports fake news and saying that this is all just because of his legal battle with PSG.
Well, this is where things get really interesting, because accusations like this can be absolutely devastating for someone in the public eye, especially someone as big as Mbappe. So while his aggressive and immediate response is understandable, emotionally it could be really risky, both legally and for his public image.
Okay, yeah, I need to hear more about that. What are the downsides of going on the offensive so strongly, especially when it's not clear legally what's going on yet?
Well, for one, if the investigation finds something concrete, he seems less credible. But even more than that, it could give this story way more attention than it would have gotten otherwise.
It makes you wonder how carefully worded these statements are. Is it Mbappe himself reacting without thinking, or is there a whole team behind the scenes trying to control how this looks?
It's almost guaranteed to be both. There's the very human part that reacts emotionally to accusations, but Mbappe is a global brand. Someone's definitely thinking about the strategy of all this.
Exactly, and that's what makes this all so fascinating to me. It just brings up so many questions about strategy, about how much control someone like Mbappe actually has over their own story, and how much power accusations have without all the facts even. It's like we're watching a game of chess play out on a global scale. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to rewind a bit and look at the other huge thing going on, that financial dispute with PSG. It's not every day you see a contract dispute in the tens of millions of euros. And Mbappe is claiming he's owed a huge sum of money.
This isn't just a small accounting error. This is a massive amount of money. Even for professional soccer, where crazy salaries are basically expected. Yeah, we're talking about a ridiculous amount. 55 million euros to be exact. That's how much Mbappe says PSG owes him. Unpaid salary, bonuses, the whole 9 yards. And here's the kicker. This was all set to go in front of a French Football League commission right when these accusations came out.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you've got this financial dispute that's getting ready to blow up, and then, bam, these accusations hit. It's hard not to wonder if the timing is just a coincidence. Is there something else going on here?
That's what a lot of people are asking. And then there's how PSG is responding, or, well, not responding. Mbappe came out swinging, but PSG has been silent.
Right. All they've said is that the situation is shameful, but they haven't actually said anything about what Mbappe is claiming or the accusations against him.
It's textbook strategic silence. You see this a lot when an organization is trying to deal with a scandal, especially when it involves someone so well known.
It's like they want to distance themselves without getting involved.
Exactly. They can disapprove without taking sides or getting dragged into the mud.
This is why I love these deep dives.
Yeah.
You really start to see all these layers to the story, like all the strategy and maneuvering going on behind the scenes.
It's a good reminder that there's always way more to the story than what we see on the surface.
Okay, but this is where I start to get a little lost. We have these two huge EE things happening at the same time. This potential legal battle over all this money, and then this really serious investigation in Sweden. Do they affect each other? Or are they totally separate? Like, how does public opinion play into all this?
That's the 55 million euro question, isn't it? On the one hand, you can say they're totally separate. One's financial and one's criminal. But public opinion doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, people love to connect the dots.
Especially with a celebrity as big as Mbappe. The timing is just so suspect. These accusations come out days before his big financial hearing. It makes you question people's motives. Like, is someone trying to use this?
So if you're Mbappe, what are you thinking right now? Are you thinking, this is perfect for my case, they just don't want to pay me? Or is it more like, this is awful, this could ruin my career?
Honestly, probably both. This is a lot of uncertainty for everyone. Like, say the Swedish investigation doesn't go anywhere. It's still a PR nightmare for Mbappe. This could hurt future contracts, endorsements, everything. His image is damaged, and that has real consequences, even if he's never charged with anything.
Right, even if it all goes away,
Yeah.
there's still that doubt. And that follows you.
And then on the flip side, what if PSG loses this financial battle? People will wonder if the accusations against Mbappe had anything to do with it. Did public opinion, swayed by all this, end up hurting PSG? It all gets very messy very fast.
This is what makes it all so much bigger than just a contract dispute or an investigation. It's about how much power a story has, you know? It makes you think about how we see public figures and how hard it is to navigate a world where information spreads so fast, especially when it's missing important details.
Yeah, you said it. This really shows how fast a story can take hold and how hard it can be to know what's true, especially in the digital age.
It reminds us that we have to think critically about what we see and hear and not jump to conclusions, which, let's be real, is easier said than done.
Totally. You have to fight against those first reactions and really dig into the details.
But we've talked about the accusations, the denials, the money, all the strategies going on behind the scenes. I think it's time we talk about public image, especially for athletes like Mbappe who are on that global stage. Mbappe has been really careful about his public image. Like, even as a teenager, he was giving these super polished interviews.
Oh, absolutely. And that's not an accident. There's been a real effort to shape how people see him, and his family has been a big part of that.
So how involved do you think they are in all this now with the legal stuff or what he's saying publicly?
It's very likely, and you see this more and more in sports. Athletes are treated like brands, you know? It's not just about what happens on the field anymore. Image, sponsorship, social media, it's all connected.
Which is why these accusations are such a big deal. It undercuts that whole image he's built.
Exactly. Mbappe is supposed to be this perfect superstar, clean image, family-oriented, does charity. These accusations go right against that.
It just goes to show that even the most carefully crafted image can fall apart. Like, one wrong move, one scandal, and that's it.
And with social media, it spreads so fast. It gives athletes a way to talk directly to fans, which is good, but any controversy blows up instantly.
So we've got accusations, denials, money problems. What are we even supposed to think at this point?
That's the question, isn't it? And there's no simple answer. We have to remember that there's so much information out there, and everyone has an agenda.
It's hard to know what to believe.
It really is. But it's more important than ever to be careful about what we see and hear. We have to be aware of our own biases, look for different perspectives, and be open to changing our minds.
It's like holding two opposite ideas in your head at the same time, recognizing that it's complicated and not rushing to make a judgment.
And remembering that these stories are about real people. What we choose to believe has a real impact on their lives.
This whole thing has been a lot, and I'm walking away with more questions than answers, honestly.
Maybe that's the point, though. This is how the world works. Now we're flooded with information, and it's hard to separate truth from what people want us to think.
So the next time we're scrolling through social media, seeing all those headlines and arguments...
Take a second. Think about who's saying it, why they might be saying it, if it could be biased.
Because the truth is always more complicated than it seems.